And I think that as kind of an adjunct to education, I suspect that it would be good to send the average kid in his teenage world out for about a year and a half of good, brisk survival hitchhiking. Now, when I say survival hitchhiking, I don't mean fun hitchhiking, like the hitchhiking to the big Yale game, something like that, just for kicks, and talking about it for weeks afterwards. Well, I'm talking about survival hitchhiking. See, the only way I could get money, I'll have to point out this, that at that point in life, this was the Depression, the real Depression, and the only way I could get any money as a kid was that 5 cents each way. That was my allowance. I could either blow it on the bus or hitchhike. So I was able to knock down a good, 10 cents a day. That was a good 50 cents a week if I could hitchhike. And it was Russian roulette because there was something about chickening out. If 9 of us got up on the corner, we're all hitchhiking, and it was all strictly according to seniority, Russ. If you got there first, you were automatically accorded the first ride, and we were all strung out. So guys hitchhiking, if a car stops at the end of the line, you'll get the ride. It was done we had absolute morality codes worked out, and they worked, you see. Now, of course, it wouldn't work that way, I'm sure, because the morality codes today relate to other people. In other words, a cartoonist can be very angry about the integration problem if he lives in, say, in New York, and he gets very mad about what's going on in Mobile, Alabama. In short, he's highly moral these days about everybody else, whereas at the same time, he has just left his 4th wife and is making the scene with a secretary on the 3rd floor. Well, so in short, his morality is a varying morality. What people like to say is that I want to preserve my freedom, but I want to regulate other people's attitudes. That's a very interesting problem. Well, so as we get closer to it, you get into the hitchhiking world, and so we had a definite setup, you see. So you're standing on the line there. There were 9 kids, we'll say, showing up, and there were regulars. And once in a while, see, there were all kids exactly like me. They were all, and nobody was poor. Don't everybody feel sorry and say, oh, they were poor. No, nobody was poor. It was just they don't hand out allowances in mill towns. That's all. Even if the guy's making the scene, if he doesn't hand out an allowance, it's just not done. So there was no allowance, and all you got was the 10 cents a day on the bus. So every morning you'd arrive. It was like fishing. Really, it was like fishing. You would arrive about 15, 20 minutes before the bus was supposed to show up. You see, you had that choice. It was like playing the scene. And then when the bus would come, you really had to make your choice. It was the moment of no return. You know the point of no return in the aircraft parlance? When that bus went down the street and you left it go by, it was, you just better get a ride, Dad. Or it was you and Rupp. That's all. You were going in over the horns. Well, so you develop an attitude which most kids apparently today don't ever develop. That is an attitude of danger. Because it was, by the way, very dangerous to be late in this school. Apparently it's not quite the same now, but it was very dangerous. Like if you were late twice, you were dropped from any extracurricular activities. And like I was on the football team, so I was playing with big stuff. I mean, big stuff for me, a couple of times late and forget it, Dad. You ain't going out to practice. That's the end of it. You just sit in there and twiddle. Well, so every morning we would arrive. It was a very exciting time. And the sun would be shining, and there were signs that you could read. If you got up there 15 minutes ahead of time, it was a good day. For some reason or other, people's attitudes towards other people go in waves. I learned this at the age of 10 or 15, hitchhiking. In short, on certain days, every car that comes by, the guy stops to pick you up. There's just something in the air. Every car comes by. On other days, there could be 1,000 cars go past the line, and you get nothing but the stony look. And not only the stony look, but then they barrel it past you. You just see they step on it when they look out, or when they honk at you. So, and it's not just 1 or 2 guys; it's the whole crowd. And then you get scared right away. As soon as you get out there and you get that from one guy, you're going to get it from a lot of other guys right away. And so you learn about real life, out there hitchhiking. So one of the great feelings was to come up there at my regular time and find no kids. Maybe 1 or 2 kids. That means they're biting good today. Great, there's been real business out there. So I come up and I say, how's it going, Flick? He says, Swartz got a Chrysler. Yeah? How about Bolus? Oh, hi, Bolus or Hudson for what a clunker. But they're all gone. You see, they're all gone. They're all gone. And so you feel great. You stand out there, you stick your thumb out, right away they're biting. Pow! The next thing you know, along comes a Packard and you're in and that's it. You know it. But then there are other times when you'd see the mob. You'd get out there and there's the mob is waiting and they've got that worried look, that scared look of a lot of account executives just before leader calls the big meeting, the extraordinary meeting at which Mr. O'Neill is going to speak. There's a funny look around the eyes. And there have been some strange men that they've seen going in and out of leader's office during the week. Guys carrying briefcases. There's a funny look. Well, that's the kids get that feeling. You sort of string out, real string out. Everybody has this unspoken pact that if one car stops, we're going to 9 of us get in. Just all of us are going to pile in like mad. We used to try that until we'd pack the cars, or the guys would load up. And once in a while, one character would come along. Occasionally, a real great character would come along, and he would try to pick up everybody on the whole road in his Model A. And there'd be 36 kids in the Model A, all screaming and hollering, feet sticking out of the back, and bumping their heads on the floor and yelling. And the whole pack would go down the street. But we used to wait, you see. You're waiting. And you learn, you can, I don't know what it is. You can even, as you stand on the street and look at a car coming, it's the way the man sits. It's the way the light hits the windshield. It's even the way the sound the tires make. You know whether this is a good guy coming. I can't express it. You just know it. Even to this very day, when I'm walking along Madison, waiting for a light, I can see crumbs go past. I can see good guys. I can just, once in a while, I feel the itch, when I see great crowds of traffic. You just start hitchhiking out of general principles. And it's just, you hate to see all this good stuff going by. So I remember one morning, it's one of the times when I learned about the bull, and I learned about, well, it's the nervous thing. I'm sure women never have this because they don't live this kind of life. They just don't hitchhike. They don't plunge themselves into the breach like men. I don't know of many women who have gone tearing up the beach at Anzio. This is a man thing. As nutty as it is, there it is. They do it. There it is. Now, women will partake of sports, but I'm talking about the things that really count. Like that Anzio situation. That's not a sport. No matter whether you see Rip Torn and Van Johnson do it on the late movie or not, it's not a sport. That's real blood, not ketchup, That's a real thing there. In spite of the fact that one of the most immoral movies I've ever seen, from my standpoint, is The Longest Day, because they reduced they reduced it to a kind of gigantic Red Buttons John Wayne, not even a movie. They reduced it to a kind of half-hour TV show, stretched out for 4 hours. Nothing but laughs all the way down the line. But nevertheless, I see that. A laugh a minute. It's funny how many guys. I bet a lot of guys are wondering where they missed all those laughs when they were there. Of course, you don't always have the sense of humor of a John Wayne. He knows how to die. Ordinary guys don't. They just get blown up, and they just splatter all over the side of a tank or something. There's just no humor in it. It's not done right. Or your last words are often so bad compared to the last words in the movies. They're much better the way they work it out there. But nevertheless, I'm hitchhiking one day. And this was one of those great scarifying episodes. And a guy comes along. I think he was driving, I'm picturing the car now. I can see it. He was driving a Studebaker. He was driving a Studebaker model, which they don't make anymore, a Studebaker called the President. Did you ever hear of the Studebaker President? Well, great big gutsy car. Oh, yeah, fantastic machine. A Studebaker. They had plans at that time. Of course, this was before the war, actually. So the term wasn't in such bad repute as it is now. But they had plans for a Studebaker Dictator. Got big spikes sticking out of the hubcaps, and great big pointed things in the front, and a little steel helmet riding up there on the top there for the radiator cap. And this was a President. And the guy picked me up. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. And I had 15 minutes to get to school. I had already gone over the horns, and, you grab. So this guy came along. He says, come on, get in, kid. Opens the door, this great big black shiny Studebaker president, and I hop in the front seat with the guy. And we start out. He throws the thing in first, and we took off, excuse the expression, lady, but like a bat out of hell. This guy throws this thing in first, and that was a powerful machine, I might point out. And we go down the street, barreling. Well, I'm a kid, so I kind of dig this at first. And we are whistling. Now I figure I'm really in. I'm not going to have a Rupp session today. Well, we're whistling along the highway when this guy begins to sing. He begins to show signs of elation. Like, how things at high school, kid? How about it there? Hey. And he reaches out and hits me on the muscle. He's one of the boys. Wants to show that he, pow. Hi, how about it? Yeah. I went to Hammond High. Yes, sir. Hammond High. Is H. McCullough still there? I says, yes. Yeah, hi, old bang. Pow, on the muscle. Well, nothing a high school kid hates more than to be talked to by an ex-high school kid about the high school. It's a real drag. So he's batting me on the elbow and hitting me on that muscle. I can't have hey, you got a letter there, kid. Pow, bang. Well, he was the first guy I had ever seen up to that point, outside of my family, my immediate family. The first guy I'd ever seen bagged at 8 o'clock in the morning. He's tanked. And he's wearing a man suit. It's not a worker suit. He's wearing a man suit, a gray suit. And he's an adult. Well, you don't holler, hey, you're bagged, Dad. Let me out. Especially when you only got about 7.5 minutes to get to Hammond High. So the guy says to me, he says, hey, aren't you kind of late, kid? And he looks down at his watch, and I says, I didn't want to encourage him, you see, at this point. He says, hey, now, school start at 8:15? I say, yeah. Yeah, just like when I was there. Is old H. McCullough still there? The old bag, pow. Belts me on the elbow again. A drunk keeps repeating the same thing over. Is H. McCullough still there? The old bang. Hell on wheels, McCullough, pow. He bop you on the elbow. Well, then he suddenly became a very concerned man. Like he was going to get me there on time now. And he floors this son of a gun. We take off. Well, we are whistling through the prairie I'd say probably 95 miles an hour. And I'm hanging on there, I'm just looking out the front. Well, we're overtaking one Chrysler, one Plymouth after the other. He goes past him. And he's always saying, son of a gun, old H. McCullough. Well, hey, is old Rupp still there? And by now, I'm feeling, it could be kind of nice to sit down for a good, quiet half-hour yelling from Mr. Rupp. Compared to that, I'm really starting to sweat. Well, suddenly this guy goes out around a Plymouth. Wow, he goes around a Plymouth. And there's a car coming at us. Well, he double floors it, He throws everything. Well, we're not going to make it. And I'm holding on to the front of this thing. I'm just grabbing. Well, he does one. He has only one choice. Either he belts the Plymouth on his side, or he goes head on into this truck that's coming, or we go off the left into the woods. Well, we go up into the woods, just like that. He makes the decision. Well, there weren't actually woods there. There was a shoulder on the road. And on that shoulder, there was an interurban railroad track, that ran right along there with the ties. We are going ga-dung, 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 ga-dung. We are bouncing along the ties. And we are going the same direction as the interurban railroad. Ga-dung, 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 ga-dung. And the truck goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then the clown can't get off. His wheels are hooked in there. Ga-dung, 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 ga-dung. Boom! I hear a tire go in the back. Woo, woo, woo. Shoo! We stop. Boy, and stuff is dripping and squirting. I can hear things hissing. Whew. He says, hey, kid, you're going to get late. You're going to get late. He says, hurry up, help me out. We'll change the tire. He jumps out of the car and runs around, falls over the rail, hits his head on a tie, gets up, starts singing, opens the trunk, and starts throwing tire tools around. And I'm standing there, and the car is just like... And I hear from the distance, I hear the interurban train coming. Whoop! It's coming along. Oi, 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 oi. So I rush across the street, and I start hitchhiking. I'm hitchhiking, and one of the Plymouths that we had just passed comes along, says, what's the matter, kid? And I says, quick, I'm late for school. Get in, kid. I get in, and there's two other kids sitting in the back seat, and we go, and the guy is standing back there. He's still hanging onto the trunk. I'm, hey, kid, girl, we'll get you there yet. And I could see that train coming, and I could see that Studebaker president standing there, and I could see that milk of human kindness flowing like a great deep sea all around me. I just beat Rupp by 35 seconds. I sat in my room. Miss Snyder, the human pincushion up there in front, never looked better. It was the first time I ever felt glad to see her, that little old rotten person. And I sat there, and she just looked down, glaring malevolently with her yellow eyes at me. She knew I'd made it again, and I knew I'd made it again. And you know, it's funny, like a drunk, you say, I'm going to swear off. This rotten little nickel, I say, I'm going to swear off. Never again, never again. 5.5 hours later after school, who do you think is standing there on US 41, this time going south? 5 minutes later, I'm in the back of a big pike truck. We're whistling through the corn.